folks, welcome to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey, right here on the Dice Tower. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Today we're going to be taking a look at this little gem right here, Café from Pythagoras Games. So let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works. Then we'll have some final thoughts and a rating afterwards. Let's get to it. So in a game of Café, at the beginning of the game, whoever has drunk a cup of coffee most recently will take the master token. And the master token is the one who's basically going to be coordinating the draft at the beginning of the game. They will draw 3 plan cards from the deck and place them face up so that everybody can see. And then they will instruct the person to their left in clockwise order to choose one of these cards. Now, when you choose one of these cards, you can either take one for free, like this one right here, or you have to pay for them if they have extra action symbols on here, like this one does here. In order to purchase a card that has an action symbol on it, you simply have to use one of the coffee bean tokens that are already in your warehouse. Everybody starts with one of each color. So if you want to take a card that has more action points on it, then you have to pay a coffee bean out of your warehouse. If you want to take one of these other cards that don't have any more actions, you simply take it for free. So maybe on their turn, this person wants to take this card. They're going to take it and add it to their section like this. Whenever you take a card and add it to your section, you have to cover at least 2 squares, but you can cover 3 or 4. It depends on what you want to do, but you have to cover anywhere from 2 to 4 squares when you cover up your card. So you'll do something like that, maybe. And in order to purchase that card, they have to lose a coffee bean out of their warehouse. Then a card will be replaced and it'll be the next person's turn. And then this person is going to go ahead and take this one and add it to their tableau just like this, covering up 2 squares right there. Once everyone has chosen, the remaining 2 cards out of that set will be placed off into the discard pile and they are done for the game. So the game is going to be played over a course of 8 rounds where these cards are going to be depleted to the extent where it will be gone when the last round of the game happens. After both players have added their cards to their tableaus, then they're going to tabulate how many actions they get. This player here only has 1 coffee cup, so they only get 1 action. This player over here bought that other card that had another action point, so they're actually going to get 2 actions like so. The actions that can be taken on your turn are producing, which are denoted by the squares that have the letter A on them. Drying, which are denoted by the squares that have B on them. Roasting, which is C. And then delivering, which is D. In order to produce, by using 1 action point, you can produce coffee beans on all of the spaces in 1 cluster. And a cluster are those that are adjacent to each other. So all of these coffee beans here can be produced like so, putting 1 on each of them with just 1 action point. Now, if there are 2 like these right here that are not connected to each other, like there are empty spaces here, then for 1 action, you can produce in 1 of those places. And then for a second action, you'll be able to produce in the other like that. Now, before we move on to drying, whenever you do a produce action in a cluster that already has beans present, you can still do that for a cost of 1, but the other ones in the cluster do not produce. A maximum of 1 cube per icon here are allowed on those spaces, but you can do that. Then, for a drying action, for example, if I wanted to, I could do that, and then all of 1 color will be able to go onto my drying station, so I could take these 2 reds here for that second action and put them over there. This player here could automatically do that by using, they have 1, 2, 3, by using one of their actions, and both of these could go over here like that. Doing a roasting action is very similar to that, but you're going to be able to use 1 action and take anything of 1 color and place them onto one of the roasting stations And then using a deliver action, you're going to be able to take cubes that are on your roasting stations and actually deliver them to coffee shops that are out here that might be looking for that color. For example, you have this coffee station here that's looking for green and red cubes. This one over here is looking for yellow cubes. So if you don't have anything that's looking for that cube that you just roasted, it goes directly to your warehouse. As the game continues on, the amount of actions that you can do and the order in which you do them will change. So for example, here now, I can use my first action to go ahead and take these red cubes and move them down here, then to roast them, and then I can take another action and maybe do a produce action in this cluster. So then I'll have two more reds come out here, I'll have another green come out here, and another yellow come out here. So then with one action I could take this and take these two right here and go right down here just like this for a drying action. Now, I do have another drying action out here, but since it's not part of the same cluster, if these two were adjacent, I would have been, for one action, I would have been able to take these two and put them here and those two and put them next to it. But since they aren't adjacent, I can't do that. They already used their first action of the 4 to produce on their cluster of coffee bean fields. Then they'll use another one to go ahead and take these two yellows and put them over here. And then they'll use another one to take them and roast them. And then they'll use their last one to go ahead and deliver one to that cafe, and the other one will come over here to their warehouse like so. Now, since they've delivered this to that cafe, that's going to score them 2 points at the end of the game. This will continue on until this deck runs out, and that will trigger the end of the game. Then, once everybody is finished with that last round, you'll count up how many points you get from cafes that you've delivered their requirements to. You'll also get points from things that are left in your warehouse. So to score points in your warehouse, you're simply going to take the lowest two quantities. In this case, there are 2 green and then there are 3 brown. And you're going to score 2 points for your lowest, and then you're going to score 1 point each for your highest. So in this particular case, this player would have scored 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 points for their warehouse beans, in addition to the points that they got from delivering to their cafes. Whoever has the most points is the winner. So that's Café from Pythagoras for you. Now, I really did enjoy this game, and that's not really to foreshadow what I'm going to say in my final thoughts and then my pros and cons, but I just wanted to say kind of off the bat, I really enjoyed playing this game. It wasn't a heavy, thinky brain burner, and it also wasn't so simple that you just kind of write it off from the very beginning. I really did enjoy the choices that you make, and I really did enjoy the time, the process of going through and playing this game, and how you interact with the other players in a kind of adjacent way. You're not really directly conflicting with the other players or directly interacting with them, but you might take that card that they wanted. They might take the one that you wanted. But I like the flow of the game, if that makes sense, and I thought it was a refreshing experience. Now, as part of my final thoughts, we always go over pros and cons. What were the great things that I liked about the game? What were the things that I think the game could have done better? So we're going to hit that next, and then we'll hit the ratings after that. So my first pro of the game is quite simply, I like the marriage between card tile placement and engine building here. I really did think it was neat. I've always enjoyed games where you are covering up parts of other cards as you build out your tableaus, so to speak. And to marry that to an engine building aspect, I really did think that that was a genius way to do that. Now, it's not new or anything like that. People have done that before, but I liked how this handled it, because I think those are two things that can be a little bit overwhelming for people, but I think in this game, it's not terribly overwhelming because it works so well together. And that's what I really enjoyed about the marriage between the card placement and the engine building. Covering different things up as you're going along is a satisfying experience because you can see how things are going to piece together. You can see when you're choosing cards, well, that card's not going to work because it's not the right configuration of things that I need right now, or it's not even the right things at all. But that card over there, that's exactly what I want. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Even though I have to pay for it now, hopefully I'll be able to get that back. Those kinds of decisions for me are really satisfying, so I liked that marriage. The second pro for this is that, and I've kind of already mentioned it, the mechanisms were really simple, but the decisions that you have to make throughout the game are very satisfying. So I like that marriage as well. Simple mechanisms, but still satisfying decision making. So that was a huge pro for me as well. So that's simply said, so we're going to keep on going. My third pro for the game is that it had an informational and educational vibe going on to it. It wasn't just, let's do this for the sake of doing it. There was actually an historical tie-in. There was also a procedural, informational, or educational element to the game where it took you from you've got to grow your product first, then you take those beans, you've got to dry them, then you've got to roast them, and then once you've roasted them, you've got to package them up and get them ready for delivery. And I like that procedural, informational, educational vibe that the game had to it. I just like games that do that without being too heavy-handed. This one definitely wasn't heavy-handed at all. It was just very kind of, let me hold your hand and take you through this and explain to you without you even really realizing that I'm explaining it to you how this industry works on a foundational level, of course. So I really enjoyed that. Had to be a pro for me. My fourth pro of the game is that simply it has a short playing time, but yet it's still a very satisfying experience. And I've used that word a lot because I like games that are satisfying. If they have satisfying decision making, they satisfy my desire for a little bit more knowledge every once in a while. Those things are satisfying to me, and if I can have that kind of experience with the game, I really want it. This one kind of hit on all of those cylinders because it did provide that educational aspect without being overhanded, but it also was it doesn't have a very big footprint. It doesn't take a long time to play. So I can play this, get that satisfaction from it, and still have time to do other things on a game night, or maybe if I'm just at home with my wife. That's another thing that I really liked about it. It handled all of the different player levels really well. I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. You didn't add a whole lot of time to the game when you add more players to it because of the nature of doing things kind of simultaneously. I just really think it's a great game that doesn't take up a lot of your time. It's a small game, it's a compact game, but it feels like you're playing something that's slightly bigger than it actually is, and I like it when games do that. Now, I did have a couple of cons with the game. I think there are a couple of things that the game could do better, and those have to do with the aesthetic part of it. I think the mechanisms are all really good, and I think they're very enjoyable. There's nothing mechanically wrong with the game, from my opinion. But the components could have been a lot better. Wooden cubes, in my opinion, just don't do it like something else might do it. If they come out with a second edition of Café, I would really love to see coffee bean shaped cubes, if I can say it that way. They wouldn't be cubes at that point, but coffee bean shaped pieces. I have played this game on Tabletop Simulator with the designer, and that digital version had coffee bean shapes as their cubes, and I thought that was such a cool thing. And I asked him, does the physical game have those? And he said no. So if they ever do a second edition, that's what needs to happen, and it would just provide that little oomph to the component quality of the game to make it just a little bit better. The card stock isn't bad, but it could be better as well. maybe a little bit of a linen finish or something to that effect. The artwork, and that's my second con, is really drab and dreary. The brown palette just didn't really do it for me. Kind of an Art Nouveau, maybe. I'm not an artist, so that may have been absolutely stupid that I just said, but the art style just didn't do it for me either. I really want something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, maybe. Not necessarily pretty, but just, I don't know. The artwork and the components just really left something to be desired for me. But mechanically speaking, this is a great game. And I think it would be a very fun experience for you to try out. So all in all, I'm going to give Café a rating of a solid 7 because I really did enjoy this game. I really enjoyed it. The main detractors were aesthetic reasons that I didn't like, aesthetic things that I didn't like, the artwork and the color palette and the component quality of the physical copy of the game. That's it. So as far as the game is concerned, as a whole, mechanically speaking, it's a great game and I really enjoyed it, so I'm giving it a 7. If you're on the flip side, I'm giving it 1 solid thumb up. I think go play it, and if you want to try picking it up, absolutely, I would not pull away from that at all. So all in all, a solid 7 out of 10 for here on the Dice Tower. On the flip side, I'd be giving it 1 thumb up. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.